the Ad Council.
You're now listening to BeExposedRadio.com. Check out this fire flashback.
We need to relearn what it is to be these bosses and how we conduct ourselves as business-minded individuals and just people in general. I let my gut, and if I call it gut or God or whatever, I'm led by that energy. I know where it comes from. I know where it's, taking me, and you have to figure out what is important to you, and don't play this game. It's a game that we've learned to play, this chess game, and life is not a chess game. Life is real, bones, flesh, blood, decisions.
Make sure you check out the Artist Exchange Show every Monday and Friday at 2 p.m. only on BeExposedRadio.com.
This is a Poverty ENT exclusive. Next stop, Texaco. Strapped up, you already know. Fuck niggas hate, that's how it goes. Bros with me, yeah, it's time to go.
Nigga, chose by another nigga, bitch. Damn, this chopper got 50 round clip. So this Molly and the syrup got me geeking, shorty. Ain't know I popped them Xannies, had them sleeping on me. Love in a hood full of hate. Pray to God that he open up them gates. Rest in peace to Freddie Gray and Lil Scooter. Putting on for our city, watch his door. Next stop, Texaco. Strapped up, you already know. Fuck niggas hate, that's how it goes. Bros with me, yeah, it's time to go.
City, got my mind strong, take a time bomb. Fuck a pot, I'd rather pat the kitty. I don't want the city, don't call me Diddy. Yeah, I rap my city, way to show them something they ain't ready for. Make a voice firm so you can't ignore it. Talking shit like I'm fixing toilets. Shag a rhythm, I can see me torn. Horn cuffs, shades on, shirt off, strapped up, Molly down, blowing strong, riding around. The demonstration hold 50 rounds, I'm a fool with it. Got ratchet niggas that's cool with it. You got a cold heart till that ooh hit it. Stop fucking with me, got my mind set. See my mind state is at a high rate.
Next stop, Texaco. Strapped up, you already know. Fuck niggas hate, that's how it goes. Bros with me, yeah, it's time to go.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin' Street? Girlin' Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Check out this flashback from the Artist Exchange radio show.
That's the biggest thing, is just empowerment. Just get off of the begging line. Just be proud and just get our pride and our dignity back, because as a child, we're taught how to go and beg for a job. Our parents, they literally taught us how to make sure you pull your pants up. Me, I'm 6'7", so I'm a bigger man. I was always taught how to not be threatening or intimidate people when I go into different interviews or in different scenarios. And so we're literally taught how to condition ourselves, condition our speech, everything, in order to go and beg these people for a job, because we know when we walk in the door, I have to tear down 10 stereotypes before I get past hello. So we need to eliminate that. You know, and we need to eliminate that, and the way that we do that is employing ourselves and employing our brothers and sisters. And so that's our mission, is group economics, uplift ourselves, because I can't empower anyone until I empower myself, and change from just being willing, because it's in my heart and my passion to see my people succeed and see us do better and change the social order, because I know that we are not supposed to be on bottom. I understand who I was. I know I didn't fall out of the sky and land on a plantation. So when you have knowledge of self and you know who you are and what you come from, it's frustrating more than anything to see us in this position.
Tune into the Artist Exchange every Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., every Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. live on BigExposedRadio.com.
Like Couser, we have this bitch jumping.
Okay. If I sit around, hold up. Look. If I sit around, hold up. Yeah. Rebel rap. If I sit around, I'ma smoke some more. Wasn't even thinking about smoke before, but I'm in my head and I'm in the bed. Don't know who I am, like I'm wearing a mask. Working mode, tell them where the cash. If you wear the cash, tell them where the cash. If you playing for you, gon' run it back. Don't make promises, but I promise that. Don't promise me, cause I ain't into that. Fell in love with that and got hurt from that. That was all over and the curtains back. Can't see you not noticing that. I'm letting it go, it ain't holding me back. Yeah, I'm on dice, but ain't come for the crack. Drinking with uncle, we only do jack. How I'm alive, I thank God for that. Praying about it, things getting better. Open it up with my name on the letter. Why you crazy about it? Saying whatever, you shy to be you. You know you gotta be you. Sometimes I need privacy too. Yeah, you know I ride. You know I ride, and you know you ride for me too. Yeah, you know I. Look, you like getting that hit for real. When it's me and Murray, just us, we chill. I'm in a rush to get off to get you. Never ever had to floss to get you. Pay the dues that it cost to kiss you. Rug burns on the carpet with you. Oh yeah. Come on, dog, throw this in there. Had to dedicate this to the homie out of New Orleans. Break. Said she wanna bump that. You wanna do it? Go ahead, do it. If I sit around. If I sit around.
Join the club that gives you stuff.
Hey, thanks!
Radio Loyalty.
Here's how it works.
Just click on the Radio Loyalty banner right now and sign up. Then, you keep on listening like you already do. But now you earn points. Those points add up, and you can trade them in for stuff in the Radio Loyalty store. Earn more points by sharing your station with friends on Facebook and Twitter, answering surveys, and by using the apps in the New Players App Store. Pretty simple, right?
Radio Loyalty.
Click that banner to join now.
Join the Just a Bit Outside crew every Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com.
You want to start off?
I think I'll get it out of the way on a who's not.
Okay, do it.
The Orioles.
Right.
They got swept by the Royals. They lost 4 in a row, and the last 5 games have all been decided by 1 run.
Mm-hmm.
The game before, or the last game that they lost before the Royals was the Nationals, and it was Weeders, of course, won with a home run.
Hit the home run.
Right.
They were going into that National series. It seemed like they were doing so well, and they just crapped out. They got that game postponed, so who knows when they're going to replay that or play that game.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first not for the night.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and weigh in on my who's not, and I'm going to talk about the San Diego Padres.
The Padres. That's okay. You just took my answer.
are they're in last place in the NL West. They've lost 8 of their last 10. Their run differential is a negative 65, which is just horrible. So when you have well, let me just talk about run differential a little bit. It's kind of like the
how much you're winning or losing your games by, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. It's like the margin of victory, kind of.
Right.
So when you're in a negative number, that means that then
your average game you're losing
by a whole lot.
Right.
I mean, a number like negative 65, this early in the season is pretty rough.
That's horrible.
Then the pitching numbers pretty much support this stat right here. I mean, the team ERA is 4.70, which is 26th in the league. They have 126 walks allowed. They acquired Jared Weaver in the offseason, and he really has not panned out. He's off to one of the worst starts in any of the pitchers in 2017. Mm-hmm. He's 0-4 with a 6.05 ERA. In May alone, he already has 12 earned runs. 12 earned runs in May. And, another one of their pitchers, Clayton Richard, he's 2-4 with a 4.34 ERA. And, in May, he has 6 earned runs and 12 innings pitched. So they're not pitching well. And on top of that, they're also not batting well.
Right. But it kind of sucks because Manuel Margot is doing pretty good. His the past few at bats, his last.
Join the Just a Bit Outside crew every Monday 8 to 10 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com.
The one for me. Ever since then, we've been vibing on some chemistry. It's just a matter of time. I know she feeling my vibe. I got the keys to the ride. She put her hands on my thigh. She got that look in her eye. SL what I'm riding. Royalty, call me highness. All day and overnighted. Cause it's crunch time when I'm grinding. This Adderall got me nauseous. Proceed with caution. Tired of lanes, I'm exhausted. Poppin' Zanny Zan, sipping out the faucet. I'm confused, don't know what I'm doing. Wait, what I'm doing? Got me going where the I'm going. Out of space where I'm going. Wait, where I'm going. Wait, where I'm going. Out of space where I'm going. Out of space where I'm going. I'll be up in the way. 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 Running on my face. Gucci guilty on my face. I'll be up in the way. Designer all night. She know she be haunting my dreams. Wearing my clear on my sleeve. I'm not who you need me to be. Indigo sound for the team. Royalty sound for the team. Hippie vibing for the team. I need space, girl. I need to get out, yeah. Slow my motions, leaning. I've been out, yeah. Never worry about me. I've been chilling. Can't do this no more. I'm in my feeling. Can't put your business all out in the open. Can't fix a heart that's already been broken. You changed my ways, I'm already hopeless. I take my time, I figure it out, girl, you know you are. I'll be up in the way. I'll be up in the way. I'll be up in the way. I'll be up in the way.
I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is, because the endings of books should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org, because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
This unknown to find who we really are. Crash into something new and take a break from our broken heart. Talk with the hip, tell me you lie. I think we should go for another round. Baby, try not to say too much. Let your love come down. If you wanna rule, it's some rules you gotta live by. Live by. Stay true to your cool, make a move. Don't wait on nobody else. And if it feels like a melody, sing a song, be my radio. And if you follow me there, I'll follow you back. Let the night unfold. I can tell that she can't get enough. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. I know she couldn't get the feels off from me. Touching hands till we dance in the dark. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. We do whatever you like. The feels off from me. I know she couldn't get the feels off from me. You and me alone to find who we really are. Crash into something new. I got that leg bringing up the car. You throw me a kiss, told me you lie. I think we should go for another round. Baby, I wanna take you, but we gotta cruise so we can lose the crowd. If you wanna rule, there's some rules you gotta live by. Live by. Stay true to your cool, make a move. Don't wait on nobody else. And if it feels like a melody, sing a song, be my radio. And if you follow me there, I'll follow you back. Let the night unfold. I can tell that she can't get enough. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. I know she couldn't get the feels off from me. Touching hands till we dance in the dark. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. We do whatever you like. The feels off from me. I know she couldn't get the feels off from me. You can be my radio. And if you follow me there, I'll follow you back. Let the night unfold. That you can't get enough. Show love, show love. Feels so good to keep your hands off me. Feels so from me. Shoot it, do it. Feels so from me. Oh yeah. Dance till we dance in the dark. Show love, she could. Feels so from me. We do whatever you like. Feels so from me. I know she couldn't. Feels so from me.
I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is, because the endings of books should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org, because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, Stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
First they love you, then desert you. Leave with a plate full with no spoon. It ain't no space, I can't escape negativity. I got used to the taste. I've been bad, burned, then fucked over. Remain strong through the Passover. Kicking haters out of the way like masked over. Roll up, sip something, let it pass over. Who would I be? It ain't the man to me that let the next man take advantage of me. When that storm come, no pan I see. Get with it, not without it, then you'll see. I beat the haters, they know I'm greater. That's why they buzzing for the elevator. But I can't save you, we too loud on the pedal stool. Don't carry fakers, always got your hand out demanding favors. When I just looked out, now you need more paper. I can't breathe, give me 3 feet. I never let y'all be the death of me. When my patient run there, yeah, nigga OT, cause they wanna see me down like I'm an NCT. 6 words, get the fuck away from me, say I help you out if you can help yourself. I keep it G till I DIE. Now excuse me while I get back to PC. HOP ain't losing sleep while your third eye always on me. I'm stacking green just to feed the team. My boo, she know that I'm king with chasing my dream. These niggas it seems I rip them, trash them, then put on new jeans. Man, see the problem is, man, you know, I keep it 100, man. Yeah, man, like if I got it, then you got it. Yeah, man, but if I don't got it, then I'ma give it. You feel me? But I definitely got you through the ride, man. Let's get it, yo.
I'm really getting tired of ungrateful ass niggas. They really about to turn me to a hateful ass nigga. Like I was never there when you never had figures. Pull triggers for you niggas when you caught up in the trenches. Man, I really don't get it. I don't know what's going on, but I really don't feel it. Niggas really know that I've been there from the beginning, but the more I see niggas side switching, make me wanna bring it closer to the end, and that's why I can't fuck around with these niggas. I'll fuck around with my hoes, cause niggas acting like bitches and hoes acting like bros. Man, I swear I really don't get it. How people switch up they roles. First it was nothing but love, but nowadays I don't know. It seems like anything goes. Where can I go? Cause lately fucking with you, I just stand at a fork in the road, and it's hurting my soul. When I'm around you, I shouldn't feel like I should stay on my toes. So where do we go from here? Get dough from here? Or are we gonna end it on the road right here? Cause either way, whether it's left or the right on my property, niggas gon' blow round here. Fuck cities up while we do shows round here. Keep our music bumping while we blow Joe round here. Don't be looking salty if you're not going nowhere. Should've kept it with the move instead of moving over there. Cause I'm getting to the point where I just don't care. Know you're thinking to yourself that it's just not there, but you made your choice and I won't retort. Just know ain't no fucking coming back round here. And we shining and grinding. You mad that you ain't at the top when you see what we climbing. Our music is timeless. I thought you would witness the vision, but it's obvious that you blinded. I thought we was brothers. I thought we was fam, but it's plain to see that you don't give a damn. Everything cool when we out selling grams, but now it's a problem. A mic in my hand, man. Dang.
I feel you, my nigga. See, niggas be saying just one way of life when there's billions of possibilities that happen on a day-to-day basis. Don't judge us cause you ain't where you supposed to be at in life. Instead of envy or try and bring niggas to your level, strive for better from yourself, not the people around you, man. Pay attention, wake up.
Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom?
I wanted to talk to you about something and... Oh, wait. Hold on. I just got a text. Oh, there's another one. Wow. Busy me. So, anyway...
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. My friends keep commenting on my comment. Oh, there's another one. So many comments on my comment.
Oh, I can't wait to watch TV tonight. Playoffs!
Hey, guys, check out my new video game. Pew, pew. Wait, Mom, what? Huh?
What? Hold
What'd you say? Wait a second, what?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Here's what you missed on Salacious Life Radio.
You know, when it comes to your children, especially if you're dating someone that you actually like, you do want it to work. So you're gonna hope and encourage the relationship between your child and that person because you like that person, you know, so you're gonna hope for the best. I mean, sometimes, it just doesn't work and you can't make it work. You can't force it. It's like a branch. You keep bending it. Eventually it'll snap, and even if you put it back together, it'll never be what it once was. But you definitely pray on it. You hope for the best, you know, because like nobody wants to spend the rest of their life alone just because that a particular relationship didn't work out, but you had this beautiful creature as a result of it, you know, but you don't want to necessarily spend and you're not all of a sudden a bad person. You're not all of a sudden not going to fulfill this other person's needs.
You, madam, are a harlot and a scoundrel.
Because I had one kid while I was still married. Like,
but what if you?
I'm just saying.
Oh, I take that back.
What if the situation turns around the other way? So you ready for your child to meet? They meet the person, and this person is a giver. So this person's buying your child lots of gifts and wanting to.
I would usually.
Do you
like,
let?
You don't like if it's a birthday or some sort of holiday or something like that. Okay, and they want to get them a few things or get them something. Okay, but just on like a regular basis, like unless it's like Nestle's Quick or something that you can get from like, you know what I'm saying, or like Kit Kats or something like that. Like, no, don't spend a lot of money
It's
on.
unrealistic. I'm sorry.
It's unrealistic. Like, don't try to buy his.
Tune in live to Salacious Life Radio every Wednesday from 9 to 11, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. So deeply wounded, but don't say a thing. Too afraid of what the people may say or think. So you just sit there and you suffer in silence. Your pride won't let you just uncover your secret. Don't wanna look weak in your image, it ain't worth losing. So you just act as if it's nothing happening. God sees you, and God hears you. Yes, God loves you. You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. Suicidal, depressed, but you won't say a thing. Too afraid of what the people may say or think. You feel alone even though the people surround you. Popping pills every night even though you know they can't solve it. The emotional pain, it just seems way too heavy. Your mind is racing, wanna scream, somebody help me. God sees you, and God hears you. Yes, God loves you. These type of people sit right under our noses. We don't find out till we're on IG scrolling. We post a few memes, but then it keeps on happening. Something's gotta change, we gotta start talking and telling the truth without the fear of judgment. Gotta come together and really start loving and heal these people cause they slowly dying. Help them believe that their life is worth living. God sees you, and God hears you. Yes, God loves you. I pray there's an end to this suicide demon. We losing people too soon, they cutting and bleeding. They think no one cares, so I wrote this song to tell you, my God, He cares and He can heal you. He sees you when you're crying yourself to sleep, wondering if anybody hears me. You tell yourself you can't go on no more, but your life is worth fighting for. Don't leave this world too soon. There's so many people who really love you. Jesus is calling for you. He knows and He can heal you. I know you're hurting deep down inside, but my God, He came to give you life. You think no one cares, so you just sit there. I'm talking to you, get up from there. You You gotta believe there's something better. So much better. God put purpose deep inside of you. The whole world is waiting for you. You.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing.
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
I thought you was going to have my money today.
Man, it is what it is.
Then last week you told me your wife was cooking.
Man, it is what it is.
Then again, I don't think I want your wife cooking because you don't like it.
Well, it is what it is.
This Fly T Miles, also known as Tyree Miles, and Mr. Miles the writer.
Hip Hop K. Check us out every Friday on Be Exposed Radio. It is what it is, 9/11.
Are they ready to? I know they're not ready to accept it, but yeah, exactly. That's my whole thing. Like, how many of them are really ready to think about it like that?
None.
You know, like
I think the problem is
like
I don't even know how we got here, but it's inbred. You're not born to hate people. You're not born to distinguish between black and white and Asian and Hispanic. That's something that you're taught. You're taught. Point blank, period.
Straight up.
My daughter came home and told me that her white teacher was black. Maybe it's because it's how she treated us. She don't see any color. But when it comes to all her friends, all her friends are mixed. All of her friends have a white parent, black, African, Hispanic, other parent.
So
children don't see color. You breed your children. Not breed. You raise your children to see that.
Yeah, most definitely.
They don't see racism.
Well, I guess
I met a little girl who had a black doll, and she said because the black dolls are prettier than the white dolls. But then I've taken a black doll and a white doll and put it in front of two kids. And it's a study that they've done before. You put it in front of two kids, and you put it in front of a kid, and you ask them which one is the nice one.
Man, it is what it is. Man, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is.
This Fly T Miles, also known as Tyree Miles, and Mr. Miles the writer.
Hip Hop K. Check us out every Friday on Be Exposed Radio at 9/80.
Whatever happened to the times when we cared for one another? We share the same respect. What is happy or die? Believe that. Full of the things that we've overcome. Full of unspoken battles we've won. You're so much better than that. Sometimes the truth ain't always catchy as rap. Stop chasing cheese or you get stuck in a trap. Go get your crown and never render it back. No, it's blasphemy. Why would you treat yourself like that? Stop all that blasphemy. We didn't come this far just to fall right back. Baby, you're a god. You're a god. You're a god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. Believe that. You're way too gifted to stop and listen. It's condescending, not to mention all of our ignorance. Is their permission to? I know you like to turn up like that. With a drink to blow up like that. Well, baby, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Just make sure the God in you stays where it's at. You're the rising sun of a new day begun. Grind on till victory's won. I pray you do your thing till earth and heaven ring. Just don't forget where you come from.
Let me talk to him. Oh, you ain't know? You ain't heard it before? That spirit you take for granted is the God in your soul. It's a price that you owe. It can never be owned. So for this valued dollar, it can never be sold. We were kings and queens in the motherland. Problem is we shouldn't have spared the rod or the father's hand. Yo, where the fathers at? Kids raising kids. So basically they never really raised raised but more assisted. Thrown to the system for criminal definition instead of dreaming for better and taking care of your business. I promise, we've been guys from the crib. Thing is, you can call a king a slave if he don't know who he is. Man, it's blasphemy.
Why would you treat yourself like that? Stop all that blasphemy. We didn't come this far just to fall right back. Baby, you're a god, you're a god, you're a god, you're a god. Baby, you're a god, you're a god. Baby, you're a god, 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 god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. Believe that.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange.
Artist Exchange Live.
The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange.
Starts now.
At Robert W. Deutsch Foundation, and I'm also the president of Art School.
Hello everyone, my name is Molly Barnes, and I am a singer. I am a music teacher at Curtis Bay Elementary School, and I'm excited to be out of the box and finally be using my voice for something good.
Hey guys, this is D. Chauncey Taylor. I am also a teacher at Curtis Bay Elementary School. I teach technology, and I am also a new author. I'm just excited to hear more about the Grit Fund, find out what it's about.
Yeah, so a little bit of background about my relationship with the Grit Fund. The fund it started in Baltimore in 2015, and it went from 2015 to 2017 under the stewardship of the Contemporary, which was a dramatic museum that did a lot of space-based and place-based site activation with different artists here in the city. So they started the Grit Fund as a way to be able to give back to the community and have specific funds that were available for collaborative, artist-led projects here in Baltimore. So my relationship with the Grit Fund started in 2016. My collective Baltimore was announced as one of the finalists for the Grit Fund, and we received about $5,000 to do our summer series of programming, which was entirely catalytic for us as a collective and really made it able that we were able to pay participants, able to pay workshop leaders, and be able to really put on and create the space that we wanted to for Black and brown queer artists of color here in Baltimore. So that was exciting. So 2016 comes and goes. We were able to do our projects. And in 2017, the Contemporary asked me to be on the juror panel. So I got to be on the other side of that process as a juror who reviewed over 70 applications for the 2017 cycle with a group of other jurors to help decide who would be the grantees for that round. And then fast forward to the end of 2018 and 2019, I'm now in the position as a program manager to be able to steward this award for the next 2 years. So
that is everything.
Thank you. So that's just a little bit about me and how I got involved in this. But the Grit Fund itself is an award of up to $7,000 for collaborative, artist-led projects here in Baltimore. So that can be Baltimore City or Baltimore County. We have different requirements about who has to be involved with the project that I'll get into a little bit later. But I wanted to start by going over the mission and the history for the fund. So I got my little notes here, so I'm gonna go through these as I have here. So with the mission, as I mentioned before, the Grit Fund provides monetary awards of up to $7,000 to encourage the presentation and development of projects that contribute to the vibrancy and development of Baltimore's arts and cultural landscape. The The Grit Fund recognizes the structural barriers that are in place for many artists, collectives, and artist-led projects and cultural organizers to be able to get funding for their work. And as such, we prioritize artistic initiatives that create opportunities for artists, cultural workers, community members to develop collaborations that investigate place and space. So we accept proposals from unincorporated artist-led initiatives, which means that you're not a business, you're not an LLC, and you're not a nonprofit, but you're really, you know, the people who are on the ground doing the work who this funding is going to go to. So anybody who is an artist, who identifies as an artist, as a cultural organizer here in Baltimore City or County can apply for the grant. And our requirements are that it takes place in Baltimore City or Baltimore County and that it is public facing. So there's a way that the public can access and engage with your work. As well as that it's collaborative. So it's not just the project of one person, but it's multiple authors coming together in order to create this space. So some examples of funded activities in the past are exhibitions, publications, public events, public place-based art happenings, film screenings, funding the ongoing work of existing venues or collectives, as well as founding new arts venues and collective spaces here in the city. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, a little bit of history about the fund. It was established in 2015 in Baltimore by the Contemporary, but it was through funding from the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts. And their mission, you know, is to aim to support vibrant, under-the-radar artistic activity by partnering with leading cultural institutions and communities across the country. So they have a program called the Regional Regranting Program, and that is part of how we are able to receive the funds here in Baltimore through Baltimore Arts Realty Corporation. The Regional Regranting Program happens in 14 cities, so we are a part of this larger national cohort of communities and organizations who are getting this funding and giving it to individual artists and projects. So, I wanted to take some time and just go through some of the different materials that we have available that talk about the fund and talk about the granting process. And really using the document that you have in front of you there, the application toolkit that we created to go through some of these things. So all of the information that we're talking about right now is available on the website for the Grit Fund, which is gritfund, gritfund.org. And that's where you can find all of this information, and you can download our application toolkit, our templates for timeline and budget, as well as a plain text copy of our application that shows you the kinds of questions that we're interested in seeing. So, let me pull this up here. I know you've had a chance to look at some of the text there. Are there any questions that jump out for you immediately?
For me, I was trying to understand what kind of collaborative projects would be accepted for this, because I'm an author, so I'm trying to figure out like who exactly I would need to connect with to be able to apply for funding.
Yeah, so it depends on what kind of proposal you would want to submit, whether or not that's for an independent book project or if that's for, you know, a platform where you can bring multiple authors together to then talk about their work. I think it really depends on what kind of collaboration you're interested in, certainly. So in the example of, you know, maybe you're applying as an author to host a panel conversation with a lot of different authors, that really serves, you know, the fund's requirement for being collaborative, because it's presenting the work of multiple people and it's not just for the gain of one artist. That's something that makes the Grit Fund different than other awards in the city, is that it's not for individual artists. It's for people who are working in collective, in community, in collaboration with other artists. Even if it's led by one person, it's still about collaboration. Okay. Yeah. So, in the application toolkit document that I have, I can turn this so you can see it as well. Just the first page has got a little bit of information about the Grit Fund. We're really interested in being a resource for people, so you can contact me through our email. That's thegritfund@baltimoreartsrealty.com. You can schedule time with me on Thursdays and Fridays to sit down and talk about your application, either on the phone or in person. And we've also got some info sessions that we do. The first two that we already had have passed for the month of February, but we've got one coming up on Saturday, March 16th. That's going to be at Jubilee Arts, and on Tuesday, March 26th, that is going to be hosted at the Motor House. these are 2-hour sessions normally, so that people can come, hear information about the fund in person, go through the application toolkit, and ask any questions that they might have about their project, eligibility, those kinds of things. So we went through the mission and the history a little bit, and I just wanted to go through the core values of the fund, because this is something that's new, that's been introduced this year, that I was part of creating. Because it's really important for us to have an idea about what we value in order to be able to communicate that to people who are applying. So collaboration, as I mentioned, that's first and foremost. And we define that as a process of decision making that involves 2 or more people. We think collaborative processes can be really used to decentralize power and create generous, open frameworks that allow multiple authors to have their voices heard. And for us, collaboration is really an important part of the Grit Fund, and it's something that needs to be essential in your proposal to the realization of your idea, your vision, your platform, whatever it is that you want to create. The second value for us is cultural integrity. This is particularly important, I think, when considering cultural appropriation and the way that, artists can write certain things but may not be of that community and may not be representing that group of people, but can still get the funding for that work because they have a certain criteria. That's not what we're interested in. We're saying cultural integrity matters, and that the creative work that you're creating demands a level of rigor and commitment to integrity and ethical use of the materials with specific cultural origins and context. So that's important for us. And within our application toolkit, there's a few ways that we talk about that. One of the third values that's important for us is accessibility. Part of the Grit Fund is that your project needs to be publicly accessible in some way, shape, or form. That doesn't mean you can't sell tickets for your event or that you don't have a specific audience in mind, but it needs to be widely accessible. And accessibility is layered. That has physical accessibility, emotional accessibility, intellectual accessibility, economic accessibility. So there's a lot of layers to that, and we really want our applicants and the proposals that we grant to really be considering that. The fourth one that we have is risk-taking. So we're interested in creative work that assumes risk by subverting dominant norms, values, narratives, standards, or aesthetics. That's not to say that we just want you to apply because you think your idea is risky and it can be done. We want it to be well-rounded, and we want people to understand and to be very clear about what risks they're pushing and what risks they're taking. Is it that you're creating a whole new space that doesn't exist, and that's risky in itself? Is it that you are going into another space and creating space for people who have not been present before? That's risky as well. So we're really interested in people who are able to describe that in their proposals in a particular way. And then lastly is stickiness, which means that the creative work achieves some kind of sustained resonance, impact, or value for the people who are part of creating it and also experiencing that work. It's important to us that when our applicants and when our grantees are out and in community and creating and collaborating, that there's intention there, and that there's value there, and that people are clear about the impact that they want to have with their work. So all of those, if you're interested in reading a little bit more about them, they can be found in our application toolkit online. And it's important for us to have that present because this is what our juror panel is looking at when we're asking them to review all of these applications. Do y'all have any questions so far? Anything that you're thinking about?
I was wondering about a concert. Do you feel like, but is there a time period of how long this needs to happen, or is it a one-time situation? Because what I'm thinking of from everything that you've been saying, I'm thinking as an artist, as a singer, I've been a background singer, and I would think to do a concert and have that accessible to everyone. Is that do you think that that's an idea or no?
I do,
Has it been done?
So not in the sense of like a concert, but previous projects that have been granted are like parties that have happened. For example, Blush and Bruise, which is a grantee, I believe, of 2017. They applied to get funding to be able to support the creative party space that they had for different artists of color to come in and show their work, be able to DJ, and be able to pay them. It's a free party that happened on a monthly basis, and they were applying for funding to be able to support the artists who engaged in that work. So that's one example.
So they created a series.
Yeah. And they already had the series going, but they were applying for funding to be able to further support that work so they could actually pay people to be a part of it. So that's one example. Other projects in the past have been performance series, have been music shows. Part of what we applied for as a collective, part of our summer funding was to fund a music event where we brought different artists in for DC, from New York, from Philly, and from Baltimore, and we're able to pay them as part of that performance. So I think it really depends on what your goal is for that public concert and how you plan on engaging your audience. But I think that's certainly something that could be granted. Yeah.
So to further that, would that be concert or concerts? Because you said series. Was that a plethora of performances with what happened recently?
Yeah, but that's up to you.
Oh, okay. As to it can be fits, one or more.
Yeah, as to what fits your model. And your question about timeline is important. Okay. So the Grit Fund itself, we are in the process of applications right now. Our application opened on February 4th and it ends March 31st. After that process, we have all of our jurors come together. They have access to all the applications online and they're reviewing that for about a month and a half before we all get together in person and deliberate on those top applications. After that, which will probably be about the end of May, beginning of June, that's when we would announce who receives the funding and who the jurors were. And then from that process, that would be June 2019 till June 2020. That's the year that you have to create this event, this platform, whatever you're doing. Now, that being said, you don't have to stretch your project to a year long if it's not a year long, but you have a year in which you can plan, the timeline for your work to happen in that space and to use the funding that you got from the Grit Fund for that work.
Now, when you speak about impact, impact doesn't mean we're feeding the homeless or we're curing terminal illness and giving money to that. Impact is who you're helping. Is that correct? Fair to say?
Yeah, I think impact can be measured in a lot of ways, and it's not always about necessarily who you are helping, but your impact can be, because you sparked an idea that someone did not have previously before, which transforms the way that they think about themselves, the way that they think about space, and therefore impacts their action. There's a lot of different ways to measure impact. And yeah, it's not about, curing cancer per se or some kind of terminal illness, but we want to make sure that you have an intention behind the work that you're doing. And that's really the measure of impact. What is it that you see happening after this event, has its closing period? Because it's not just that, a lot of the things that the Grit Fund has funded in the past were not just projects, but they were platforms. And the difference between the two is that projects have an ending date. Platforms are expansive.
So you're trying to create more platforms than projects?
Not necessarily. It's a project-based award, but I'm saying that your projects have the ability to be more than just that ending or that specifically closed event. They are platforms for a further conversation, and that's part of the impact and part of the way that you're thinking about your work.
So we were talking a little bit before we started, and it's more so the things that you need for grants in general. And I spoke to you about what my shortcoming was in this preparing for grants, and often as artists we do without documenting or having a portfolio of the process, and that normally hurts us because that's exactly what grantees are asking for. I want to see what you've done, so I'm not giving you my money to do that. This process is a lot different in that I'm asking for your idea.
Exactly.
Even if you're coming up with it in this moment.
Yes.
So can you speak to the difference that this grant
Absolutely.
is based on a lot of the other ones?
Yeah, so for us, this is about being flexible. The Grit Fund has often provided what we call seed funding, which is that initial, drop in the bucket kind of money that you need in order to get your idea off the ground. And that's different than a lot of other funding opportunities who want to see some kind of established track record of you doing this thing in order to give you this amount of money. And that's not what we're about. We're interested in being that first funder and being that first opportunity that gives you that money to take your idea to another level. And through this process, part of making it open and easy and accessible is about getting our grantees to be able to prepare themselves for more applications. Whenever I think it is. And whenever you fill out, I was saying this to you earlier, Nate, like all grants are different.
Right.
So, what's required, format, reporting processes, all that is different depending depending on where you're applying to. But for us, I'm interested in making this as accessible as possible and not creating too many barriers for people who want to access this funding. We don't have any kind of educational barriers or background barriers other than the fact that you need to be an artist and someone who uses visual art in their practice. But it's about being open and about, you know, using this process of applying to grants to also educate, you know, the larger public about what that process can look like. Yeah.
You said visual artists, and when I went to the info session, that was one of the components. So visual arts has to be a part of your process in some way.
Yeah. So I want to read this first frequently asked question that we have here. It says, how does the Grit Fund define artists and cultural organizers? So the Grit Fund uses a flexible definition of an artist, one which incorporates many disciplines, mediums, formats, educational backgrounds, and experience. Those who self-identify as artists and those who identify their creative practice as arts-based are included in our definition. So we're sourcing, there's a great organization called Arts and Democracy, and we are using their working definition of cultural organizing as how we're defining it, because I think it's expansive and I think it allows for the kinds of work that are being created in Baltimore. So their definition says, cultural organizing exists at the intersections of art, culture, and activism. It is a fluid and dynamic practice that is understood and expressed in a variety of ways, reflecting the unique cultural, artistic, organizational, and community context of its practitioners. Cultural organizing is about integrating arts and culture into organizing strategies. So we're interested in people who define themselves as artists and who define themselves as cultural organizers who are actively using the arts, visual, performing, to engage their audience.
So what? So there's a list of things in here that doesn't quite match the mission in terms of what would be acceptable. So can you explain the things that would not be covered under this grant?
Yeah, let me scroll down just a bit here. So we do have certain eligibility requirements, and I'll read a bit of those just to give a sense of what that is. So in terms of what types of projects and arts initiatives are eligible for the Grit Fund, as I said before, it has to be projects that are initiated by individuals or collectives that are currently residing in Baltimore City or Baltimore County. It has to be projects that utilize visual arts as a means of engaging, activating, and sharing with their audience. The project has to be collaborative, led by visual and performing artists, cultural organizers, collectives, collaboratives, and/or artist-run spaces. And the project has to be open and accessible to the general public. Now, in terms of the types of projects that are not eligible, so it's projects that are not based in Baltimore City or Baltimore County and are not led by artists that are based in Baltimore City or Baltimore County.
Even though your collaborative team can be from everywhere.
Yes, but the lead applicant on your project needs to be based here, and the project needs to happen here. So projects that are initiated or organized by existing incorporated entities, so projects that are organized by people who are already in LLCs, who are in 501c3 organizations, projects coming from universities or schools or religious institutions, those all count as incorporated businesses and are therefore not eligible for this project. This project is about supporting people who are unincorporated, who do not have the support of larger institutions and business structures to fund their work.
Like students.
Okay. Well, that's a little tricky because students are technically not allowed to apply. Right. That is one of the things that are not eligible. So people who are currently enrolled in high school, college, and or university are not eligible for funding. And that happens to be because there are a lot of resources that are associated with educational institutions, and while it is a large, or rather a general assumption that if you go to college you would have those same resources, this is really for people who do not have any of those connections to institutions, to colleges, to universities, whatever that may be, and don't have the funding to support their work. And I think part of why we've chosen to keep this standard about not having students who are currently enrolled is because when you lift that open, you do get a lot of applications from students at different universities, and oftentimes those are more prepared than some of the other applications that you might receive from people who don't have the same educational background, don't have the same class background, don't have those same access to resources. And this is really about supporting those projects. So projects proposed by lead applicants that are younger than 21 For us, this is really about, you know, taxes and finances. The person who is the lead applicant on the project is the one who is receiving the funding and receiving the money. And oftentimes, you know, people who are over the age of 21 are a little bit more set up to handle those kinds of financial responsibilities. So the next one would be projects seeking support retroactively or seeking reimbursement for past projects. That's also not something that we fund. Your project has to be taking place in the time period of the grant that you received funding for. So that would be, yeah, so that's a year from when you receive your funding. That's
June to June.
June to June, 2019 to 2020.
Right.
So another thing that is not eligible is proposals that are strictly looking to fund a solo exhibition. For example, you know, I mentioned this is not an individual artist award, although it can be led by an individual who is engaging in collaboration across community, across artistic lines. So if you are an individual artist who wants to apply to put up their exhibition in a solo show, there aren't any other artists in the show, you're not doing any kind of programming that is collaborating and bringing other people into the space, that kind of project would not be eligible. But there are plenty of other individual artists awards in the city that would be. For example, the Ruby's Artist Grant, which is up to $10,000 of funding for an individual artist project. And that's coming out this June, actually.
And they have different, I think two happen in the spring and two in the fall. Is that the Ruby?
That's changed now. It is, okay. Yeah, it is the Ruby, but my colleague Sonia Sendak, the structure of that has changed a little bit. So they're going to be doing all 4 cycles at one time, rather than having 2 different cycles happen throughout the year. It's easier that way to be able to provide better professional development support to all of the grantees when you have them happening in one cycle.
So is it the same, do more people win them, or?
No, I think it would be the same in each discipline. It's still discipline based, yeah, but they're just all together. So that's literary arts, that's performing arts, it's visual arts, and media and digital arts. So all of those would be happening at the same time.
Further, I didn't want to get too far away from the responsibility of taxes.
Yes.
We all work for an organization that is contractually based, meaning we are then responsible for paying our taxes out of our pay. And the age requirement that you have speaks to people that are ready. I don't know too many 22-year-olds who are ready. I'm 35 and I'm not ready. But it does speak to the responsibility that you have with grants. So grants aren't personal income.
Right. So although they are counted that way by the IRS. So that is why you have to be diligent about separating the income that you receive from grants versus your personal income. So the lead applicant on a GRIT fund project is responsible for knowing what they need to do with their tax situation when you receive this funding. That's not something that I can give advice on legally because I'm not a tax professional. The only thing that I can do is really point our grantees in the direction of here's who you need to be speaking with, you know, an accountant, a tax professional at H&R Block. I don't care who it is. Whoever you file your personal taxes with, I would go to them and talk about how this affects your income, because it is looked at as individual income from the IRS, particularly because we're not allowing businesses to apply, which then, you know, if you had an LLC, you would put it in that account and that would be your business income, which is naturally separate from your personal.
And that's the responsibility of the person that's the lead, or whoever chooses to put themselves
as the lead applicant. They are the contact for the project, and they are the one who is financially responsible in the sense of receiving the money.
One of the things that you mentioned at one of the info sessions was even if there's a team of people, the check comes in one person's name.
Exactly.
So if you're paying someone out of this, or there's a fee attached to it, you're still getting charged for the whole, say it's $7,000. You're still responsible for the taxes for $7,000. So you have to make sure that you are allocating the funds as you said you would, because then they have to file their own personal taxes. But again, so you really, are there accountants that are connected to this?
There aren't. Yeah. So currently, I would like to build that network in the future, but as I said, like that gets into legal areas where it's like if I say, you know, go to this person and they do you wrong, like I can't be responsible for that. But the best that I can say at the moment is to contact a tax professional.
Legal aid, a lot of clinics for artists.
Exactly. Maryland Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts runs some really great clinics, rather. I know Maryland Citizens for the Arts is another great resource. Maryland State Arts Council is another resource.
And they're for these things.
Exactly.
Because we often get into a lot of financial trouble and legal trouble. Because if you just go and spend that money, just like we spend our paychecks and you're not allocating the portion to what taxes are, the next year you're going to get a bill and or a summons to be able to go to the tax office because you haven't really done what you were supposed to do with that money.
Yeah.
Because you all are telling people that you gave me this money, so they know that we have the money.
Exactly.
They're just waiting for us to file correctly.
Yeah.
And be honest about it.
And that's a great point about making sure that if you receive any grant, this GRIT fund or any other grant, that you are using the funds for what you applied for. You should not be paying your personal expenses from a grant if that was not in the budget for what you submitted to your project. You can get in some trouble about that. Because as you said, like, we are reporting to the IRS what we are giving.
And this grant specifically, they ask you for a breakdown of your budget.
We do,
but
yes.
Then you're not necessarily going through it at the end of the process.
Right.
But you do go through to just see the summation of the project.
Exactly. We will have, once you are awarded the grant, in that initial grantee letter, that agreement that we signed together, we will sit down, you will sit down with me, and we will go over your project, we will go over the grant agreement, and we will talk about when we need to check in, and what things we can check in about, what resources I can provide for you. And that's all on an individual basis once we get to our grantees. It's about 9 to 10 projects that we'll award over the process of this application, and those 9 to 10 projects, sometimes it's been more in the past because not everybody applies for that full $7,000, and we can fund a little bit more depending on that.
So you have a certain amount and it just
Yes.
allocated. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And then so the last bullet point on what types of projects are not eligible would be projects that don't have a public component, and that's something that we discussed. So projects that are not publicly displaying the work that they are doing, they don't have a way for the general public to be able to access that work, those kinds of projects are not eligible.
I have a question from one of our listeners.
Yes.
He says, why do you limit your grantees to just Maryland?
Because that's specific to the grant. So we don't have the jurisdiction to grant in other spaces. The Andy Warhol Foundation has given us this funding to grant specifically in Baltimore City or county. They have agreements with other programs. As I said, we're one of 14. So they have other programs in Miami, in Houston, Texas, in Cleveland, in Colorado, in Philadelphia, all around the country. And for us, we're located here in Baltimore City, so that's who we're focusing on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
So, this grant being for Maryland.
For Baltimore City and Baltimore County, yes.
Baltimore City, Baltimore County. What are some of the things that you come across? So, we are 3 different genres of artists, but so what are some of the, I don't want to say challenges, but challenges that you see that artists often have in coming to you? Because sometimes people just see $7,000, let me try out for this. And the questions come. What are some of those questions? I know a lot of them wrote in here, but some of those challenges that you see in people not being able or not being ready for this.
So not being ready for it, I see just people who are still trying to identify who their community is and who are the people they would want to collaborate in order to produce a project with.
Because we often want to help all these people.
Yeah, but for grants, you need to be specific and you need to specify what it is that you want to do.
Right.
So I would say that's something I'm seeing right now is people just trying to figure out what it is that they want to do.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and that's perfectly okay. Like we also, you know, I should say that like once the funding is granted, we expect that things change. You know, that's also part of the flexibility of this fund. Like we know, you know, if you have some collaborators that you signed on at the beginning and they drop off, you know, halfway through the project, we understand that things change. So we are not, you know, holding you with an iron fist to everything that you write on paper before you've even actualized this idea.
Right. But it shouldn't be you put this down on the paper and then we realize
you're doing something. Yeah,
with this
exactly. Yeah, it's still thank you, because it still needs to be in line. You are correct. But little small details, we understand that those change. The overall scope of your project should not be changing.
Are we reporting that change?
Yeah, you can.
How do you report that?
So that would be to me personally. We can do that via email. We can do that on the phone. We had someone ask in the info session the other day, what level of change would we need to report to you? So if it's something major, like you've lost a significant collaborator and you will no longer be able to do the project in the timeline that you propose, that's something you need to come and talk to me about so we can figure out how we can best support you.
But you're not expecting that due date and it's not.
Exactly. Yeah, there needs to be some kind of communication with us. If it's other things like you lost, the venue that you had and you got to book another one, that's not something you really need to tell me about.
You're saying some of these things can be proposals that aren't necessarily set in stone as a
Exactly. Like if you have, collaborators in mind that you want to reach out to, but you haven't, done that groundwork yet, and that's part of your timeline. It's like after you've received this funding, you're doing that groundwork to reach out to people, figure out who your co-conspirators are. That's important.
But if it's like a big part of your project, we need to update you on who that new collaborator is.
Potentially, yeah. It's really on a case-by-case basis because it's a small amount of projects that get awarded. I'm able to really do that one-on-one kind of conversation and talk about that. But as I said, if it's not something really major that is changing the whole course of your work and is really affecting your timeline, really affecting your budget and who's involved and how you're able to get it to the public, other than that, I trust that you are able to make this work.
So we aren't able to see past award winners or past applications, but just in general, what has been like the areas of interest?
So you can see past grantees of the project on the Contemporaries website, and that's linked on our website, gritfund.org. You can see those projects and it'll take you to their site. And they have all the projects from 2015, 2016, and 2017 listed there.
I don't application?
No, the summary of what their work is and what they were funded for. So that way you can see the range of projects. There are people who have presented like virtual reality projects, people who have done music shows and concerts, people who have done art exhibitions, people who have produced publications, people who have had community happenings. It's really a broad selection of work, and I think that is fitting for Baltimore because artists here are intersectional. I don't meet too many artists who only do one thing, and I think that's important to the spirit of this fund.
What do you mean community happenings?
So let's say you wanted to host a dinner or something like that in a public, in a space. Exactly. It could be a cookout. It could be a barbecue. That's a
block party. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Exactly. So something that is public and something that engages with the people you're in community with. It can be a lot of different things, and it's pretty broad.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like a really big flash mob, right?
Yeah, and it depends. I would just say that as long as you are centering your ideas in your proposal, we want to know, if you're getting multiple sources of income and there's a lot of moving pieces, we want to know what it is you are coming to us to fund. If it's, let's say your project is a larger $15,000 project or something like that, but you're coming to us for $7,000. We want to know specifically what that $7,000 is funding, but we also do want to know the larger context of what it is you're trying to put together, because that gives our jurors the information that they need in order to say, this is something that we want to fund.
But if this is just a portion of it, you need to show, you don't necessarily need an excellent question, but if it's just a step in the overall project, this has to have a beginning and end. So
right, this step needs to have a beginning and end in that sense.
This part, and then I'm going to go out there and look for some more money to get the rest of it done.
It depends. It depends on the structure of your project and what is right for what you're trying to accomplish. You can certainly create something that has a definite end and beginning, that you're applying for this funding, but it could also be part of a larger 3-year project. But in the end, it still needs to be specific. When you are submitting your proposal, I still need to know specifically what you are asking us money for, And I think it actually strengthens proposals to show that there's something larger that you're building towards. It gives context, and that's really important.
Especially if you want it to be something ongoing.
Exactly.
It has to be other funding.
Yeah.
So what if your impact includes or is focused on those individuals that are under 21 that are in school. If you're
that's all right.
So
your collaboration can be students.
So I would want to be really clear about how you're engaging them as collaborators if they are students, so that we know on this side what it is they are contributing to that collaboration. But you can certainly collaborate with people who are under 21. I would suggest that you pay them, within your artist fee, which is something we talk about in our budget. We want to make sure that you are paying yourself for the work that you're doing, and there's also lines in there where you can pay your collaborators.
Paying yourself from the money that you give me.
Yeah, so in the budget,
she like,
yes,
down.
yes, absolutely. So
I didn't know that was included.
Can I grab that sample timeline from you? Just that top one. Yeah, perfect. Just so I can show you what I'm talking about. So this is something that is important and is included in our
application is on their
Yes,
website.
all of this is online. You can download the application, the sample budget template, the sample timeline, as well as the plain text application. So in our budget, we made up a mock budget, and in the expenses lines, we have $1,700 is going towards an artist fee. And that's the artist fee for the people who are coordinating this project. That includes the lead applicants and their main collaborators. That can be used in any way you want, whether or not that goes, directly in checks to the people who are a part of your collaboration, whether or not that goes to supporting a group thing that y'all take part in. The artist fee is really to show that you value your own time and your own labor. You're not doing this for free. And a certain amount of your time and labor will always be in kind, because when you have a $7,000 grant, there's only so much of that you can really pay towards yourself and not impact the work. Exactly. So you want to be sensitive to that. For example, when Balti Girls, the arts collective I'm a part of, when we applied for this, we set aside a certain amount of money that we knew for our artist fee was going to go towards our self-care as a collective after doing all of this work of putting on these panels.
The self-care that we
needed. Like, let me tell you, we all got massages.
I want to be there.
Yeah. Self-care, sir.
I'm going to say that to my boss the next time we have a conversation. My self-care isn't being covered here.
Yeah.
That's a good term. Thank you, Balti Girl. See that?
And you budgeted it.
Yeah, and exactly. We budgeted that, and we were very clear about what it was going towards in our budget. We have a line where there's a description area where you can describe, in as much detail as you need to that supports your work about what these different charges are going towards. So for us, it was self-care for the collective. We put a lot of work into organizing our panels, our discussions, our exhibitions, our music event, and we weren't receiving any funding for that ourselves. We all had full-time, part-time jobs, are doing this work volunteer. And the artist fee is to really make sure that we are acknowledging all of that in-kind work that goes into putting this on. So we want to see that you're valuing yourself. That being said, it's not mandatory. You don't have to include it. If you would rather have all of that money go to your project, that is fine.
So that line item for the $1,700, do you have to itemize who get paid what? You just the overall money going towards fees? Okay.
Yeah, and there's different ways that people choose to use their artist fee. Like our example, we chose to use it to take care of the self-care of the group and to make sure that we had some kind of congratulatory experience for us after finishing all this work. Other people may choose to use that artist fee to pay for other contracted services and things like that they need to do that they would otherwise be taking on themselves if they did not have that money. So there's flexibility about how you can use that.
My mind is moving.
Yes.
You're just trying to figure out exactly.
I know. You're trying to think okay, so what I'm gonna apply for? Yeah.
My mind going through. This is very helpful because one, I appreciate the work that a lot of the foundations and fiscal sponsors and grantees have given to organizations like you are a part of to make this more accessible and more available to individuals who would feel like this is an overwhelming process.
Yes.
And I'll personally say it's always been overwhelming because you see all the pages, especially if you're doing it on the computer, it just seems like an ever-ending rabbit hole of work that you have to do, and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm not even doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something totally different, and you let that goal kind of dissipate over there because you haven't you're too afraid of this process.
Yeah, and it can be tricky. As I said, not all grant processes are equal, and there are definitely, you know, I'm an artist as well, and I'm out here applying for grants for my own personal work. And there's definitely some applications that are for $1,000, and they got you filling out 6 pages of da-da-da, and, you know, putting your tax information and all this stuff, and it's like, I'm sorry, but that's not worth my time. Really, when we're thinking about exactly for the effort that we like, grant applications take effort. It's not something you can just throw together in a night, because you're gonna have all kinds of questions that come up while you're writing it that you need time to sit with.
I like the wiggle room and the growth that you have inside of this. It's really, it makes it accessible. I'm just being completely honest.
Thank you.
I've read and inputted a lot of grants before, and it's very accessible. And I have to keep saying that because it is. Now, in terms of what your demographic is, in terms of the people who support it and submit, what does that look like to the average person who thinks that, oh, this is not just for me, it's not really for me, but what does your overall demographic look like?
I think it's mixed, and it really depends. You know, part of me doing outreach and trying to get this information out to people is so that we get many different pools of artists and people in arts communities who are cultural organizing to know that this grant is for them. I want anyone who is doing artistic work, who is leading their projects, who is organizing in their communities to apply for this. That's my goal. You know, I want a diverse range of applicants. I want a range of applicants that reflects the population of this city, you know, in all of its measures. And, you know, not only race, but class background, educational background. I want this to be open for anyone who thinks, hey, I have a project, this could be for me. And if you're not sure, come talk to me.
And that makes it more, that makes it a lot easier to be able to think about what you can do, because sometimes those grants be making you like, okay, so we can only make this, we only can use green products for this, or it makes it so layered and so complicated that it's something that you don't want to get into, and then you get so far away from what you actually do as an artist.
And that's a dangerous space to be in, because that's part of, you know, I'm new to working in philanthropy and to working as a program manager. This is the first grant that I am overseeing, but I've done a lot of research around grant processes, and I also have my own experience applying for grants as an artist, and my goal was to try and make this as accessible as possible. It's still got ways to go. There's still more that I can do. But I don't want people to end up in the position when applying for grants that they are tailoring their work to what the grant is asking for. That is a sure way to not get the money and to waste your time and your energy.
But that's been the process for a number of years. You had to fit in and kind of contort your work into what the grant was asking for, because that's how it was written, and that's what it was asking you for. And they had the very specific things that they wanted, but you had to figure out, how can I do this as an artist and still have integrity and not be lying to these people about what I'm going to do with this money.
And if you find yourself having to stretch your mission a little too far and stretch your vision a little too far, that's a key sign that it's not for you.
Or, I mean, maybe whatever you're planning is not right for this. What can you do within the construction of it, or the four corners of it that works for what you do. So be you at the end of the day, but don't feel like you gotta lie on this, because like we were talking before we started the show, lying on these forms, the same types of people oversee this. The same type of people are talking on the boards for this process as it is for this one over here, and you'll be blackballed from even legally, you know, being able to do these things, because then you won't be trusted with the money. Like this is somebody's money. This is not this money that they just printed off to give to somebody. This is somebody's foundation's money that they're giving for this cause. So integrity is really key, and I think that's why a lot of artists don't want to do it, because they realize that's a lot of responsibility. I'm not gonna play with nobody's money like that, but it's possible if you're doing it for the right reason.
And it's yours to play with. Like, it's out there, and I don't want people to feel as though grants and that kind of funding is not for them. I'm not going to lie and say that it's easy to get to, because it's not made easy to get to. And that's part of why I think what we're doing with the Grit Fund is different. I want this to be easy to get to.
And one of the things that I've noticed with especially a lot of people who have gotten fellowships and grants here, once you do one, the process becomes easier. So then you are shooting almost to getting the bigger grants as they go up in, I don't want to say price, but
they do,
amounts.
yeah. Amounts and, you know, services provided with them. You can certainly track the trajectory of people who have won certain awards and then see what they go on to get.
And where they started from.
Where they started. And that's a good place for you to start too. Like, as a personal artist, I've worked in commercial fine art galleries and all of that. And when I was doing, you know, people's CVs and rewriting people's resumes and bios, I got a chance to see the opportunities that they started with. And that's important, because if you have someone that you admire who's an artist and you want to be where you think they are, look at the opportunities and look at the things that they've applied for and start there. You know, I think that's a really great way to model your practice, you know, and everybody's different, so it has to be catered to you. But I think, you know, being in community with other artists and exchanging information with other artists is one of the best ways we learn for our own practice about where we want to go and how we want to get there.
And a lot of foundations and fiscal sponsors have set up either a headquarters here or a foundation here or some type of outlet like a grant here, more than whatever was. And now I think the trend is now making it open to the community, because the integrity of the organizations have now been questioned in terms of who you're really helping. And it's the same 5 people on the list every time. So now everything is open and accessible, and you just have to figure out how to get to it and what your rhythm is. So I really I want to ask you now, let's switch it a little bit and start really getting into who you all are personally, so we can kind of, these not just talking headset right here, but we'll start with Miss Taylor, telling people who you are and what you do.
In general?
In general.
Yes. Legally. Well, I am, like I said before, a technology teacher for Curtis Bay Elementary Middle School. Outside of that, I am an author and a poet. So my focus has been writing. I take my writing and I try to incorporate it into the classroom, try to get the kids involved. I'm always trying to pick their heads of what they want to do, even in the weird stories that they come up with, how we take the, oh, this and this happened to me, let's put it on paper, draw a picture of it, tell me what it is, so we can, what I do for them is I try to help them make their own stories, because they never believe that they can do it, so.
And you actually just did it for yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
I just recently wrote my second book called Obsession, and it should be out within the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
So that's what I've been doing.
It's a major accomplishment.
On social media?
On social media, on Facebook, it's under Chauncey Speaks, and Instagram, it's also Chauncey Speaks 2. That's where it is.
Hi, Monique Barnes again. I am a singer. I'm more than a singer. I do a lot, but in recent acts, since I've been working at Curtis Bay Elementary Middle, I've been really just focusing on the journey that is there, because South Baltimore is a very, it is, to be honest, a struggling part of Baltimore, the way that they don't have certain things, but nonetheless, I enjoy being able to give these kids the reason I love music, the reason that they love music, but I think they're a little confused on the essence of what music was created to be, and I want to give them that. I'm also an actress. I dance, I sing, I do any and everything, but I don't think that I've ever really placed myself in my adulthood in a place where I can blossom, and I think that that's what I want to search for. I also really enjoy sign language. I think that the deaf community deserves a whole bunch more love and accessibility to everything that those that can hear have and deserve. I really enjoy, and also, you know, the deaf community is a part of those that have special needs. I connect with them very, very strongly. Before I worked at Curtis Bay, I was working at Ridge Ruxton, and that's in Baltimore County, and that was a full school of special needs children, those children who have different autism and different disabilities that cannot speak at all. And I started to emote with that so deeply. Even though I can speak not being able to express myself properly. And I've seen that in Curtis Bay, and children who are seen to be normal, they can't express themselves as well as they would like to either. So I love languages. I love sign language. I love culture. I've been to Africa. I've been to different places. And I think in this point in my life, I'm such a multicultural artist. I do more than one thing, and I do that thing well. Yeah. And I want to be able to share that, because there's a lot of artists out here who are getting paid more than I have ever been paid to do what I feel is truly authentic. A lot of people are a little confused, but that's who I am, y'all. Sorry.
Yeah. So I do a lot of things. My day job, I work as an arts administrator, as a program manager, but I'm a multimedia artist. I've been doing and involved in art since I was in elementary school. I started playing classical music. I moved to dance and then moved to visual arts, because I was like, dance and music are too expensive, and visual arts I can finesse because I'm a poor black girl from Miami, Florida, and I didn't have that much.
Wow.
So, you know.
You're so calm to be from Miami.
Well, you know, this is a particular context.
Don't catch me outside.
Right, don't catch me outside, right? No, I'm kidding.
Khadijah about to turn up.
Hello, Khadijah.
I mean, I got my moments, most definitely. But I'm a multimedia artist. I am a curator. I'm a writer as well. Working on a lot of different projects right now, personally, with my arts practice, and trying to figure out how I push that even further.
Happens.
Right? Let me know.
I can just get this together to create a team.
I don't know, radio's cool. I would love, you know, that's a possibility for me as well. But yeah, my visual arts practice, I studied interdisciplinary sculpture and art history, and I have a background in fashion design and construction. And performance art. So
Can you speak on the sculpture ball? And what is that?
So I went to Maryland Institute College of Art, and they have a major called interdisciplinary sculpture, which means that the sculpture core curriculum is pulled from all different parts of the arts and academics.
Okay.
So I studied filmmaking and video arts. I studied woodworking and ceramics and fiber art. A lot of different.
Did you love ceramics? I really want to get into that.
I love ceramics. I really do.
Okay.
And I would love to go back to that.
Yes.
Had the opportunity. It is. And
See?
that's part of why I can't afford to go back to that, as is woodworking and metalwork. Like, I learned how to weld and all of that. I can do all those things. But my current arts practice is more based on like 2D surfaces, because that's what I'm able to create. I have a small studio downstairs in my home that I'm able to work out of. But I make paintings and digital collages, a lot of digital collage work that's inspired by, you know, the different readings and research that I do around being a black queer body in the African diaspora, and the way that that affects the work that I make.
So here on the Artist Exchange radio show, I've built this platform, and it's been created out of the necessity of my Coppenites, sorry to you Morganites.
I'm a Lincolnite, thank you.
Okay.
Be first. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But it was out of necessity. We had a lot of awesome teachers like Linda Day Clark, Professor Johari Courts, and individuals like that within our art major, but we were lacking resources. Professor Day Clark was pulling from Micah, and Professor Courts was pulling from all her regional work and such, and we got resources based on having to then go out and you know, based on what those two professors had, you know, resources with, and I needed a platform that kind of kept us together as students. So the Artist Exchange is definitely this type of platform where we want to give as much information, and not just information, but resources and opportunities for individuals to be able to succeed.
Yes.
You know, it's very difficult in this city to succeed and to stick at it. You know, you might get a win here and there, but trying to outdo that or continue on, we often lose a lot of people because they have feel the need to move away to the Atlantas and the New Yorks and the LAs, and we lose a lot of talent because we can't sustain the resources here that keeps growing. Because you can keep getting a grit fund, but how many times can you get a grit fund? You know, how many times can you live off of that? You know,
you can't. Yeah, essentially.
You know, but how do you turn that grit fund into a lifelong career?
Yeah.
Be able to flip that a couple times to be able to actually survive off of it, and not feel like I have to settle. Like, not that we've settled, but this is where we found ourselves being art teachers.
Yep.
You know, and that becomes like the career choice
Yeah.
of an artist.
In order to support your livelihood. Yeah.
Living in your plan B is no fun.
Yeah.
Right, no fun.
And it's about sustainability, like particularly for me as someone who came to this city looking for the arts opportunities that I did not have back home. It's different, and I recognize that there are a lot of people who are from Baltimore who have never had access to the type of things that I've had access to, coming here specifically to go to an arts college and then all the networks that they are plugged into. And it's important to me to acknowledge that, because there are many resources in this city, but they are not
on the low.
On the low, and they
Like,
are not
really.
properly communicated.
Absolutely,
There's not an effort to go out into community and talk with people and make genuine relationships. Because you can't just go into communities that you have no relationship with. You need to know someone, and that is part of network building. That's part of those interpersonal skills.
Yes.
But it's important, you know, to think about sustainability for artists. And there's a great resource called Artist U. It's the word artist with an S on it and the letter U. They have a wonderful workbook. We also and a workshop. It's a workbook for like making your life as a sustainable artist, and it asks some incredibly important questions and gets you to think about your work in a way that I've never encountered, even through school. And that's the disappointing thing, because there are so many resources that
in school you're taught the technique.
Yeah.
The business is separate.
The business is totally separate, and you know, a lot of arts institutions do not educate their artists in multiple fields and multiple skills, unfortunately, which is what, you know, allows us to think that you can just come out of art school and get a solo show and then have gallery representation and be done. Like, that's not how it works for most people. And I think it's important to talk about sustainability and figure out how we are engaging with different systems and how they support our livelihoods, what we're asking from them.
And I think making these art institutions of learning more responsible for that, because you're getting a lot of talent and a lot of money underwriting because of these talented young people, and you're not giving them the opportunities. And I'll say that for my department, we were really small at Coppin, but the school itself didn't see the necessity of giving us a platform to be able to not only demonstrate for the need of raising money for the department, but demonstrating for the process of how do I sustain this once I leave here. Because as an actor, my job is getting the job. So you showed me a little bit about auditioning, but the business of who I am, the foundation.
Yeah, marketing myself to be a multi, you know, Michael Jackson or whatever, exactly. To get to that, I completely resonate with that. Being able to audition as a singer, and you've taught me how to say, hello, my name is Monique Barnes, and I will be singing, blah, 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 how to breathe, but how do I make my name? How do I continue to get these auditions? Who do I need to talk to? Because there are people you need to know on Broadway just to speak on that, you know, that type of, you gotta know someone, or, and then like you were explaining, marketing yourself, that's, no one said that in school. No one.
And all of you represent transplant to Baltimore. If I'm not mistaken, none of y'all are from the city of Baltimore.
I am from Baltimore.
You're from Baltimore City. So, but speaking for the two of you coming here, the difficulty and challenge that you have, double that, triple that, quadruple that for people who are living here, because it just did not seem accessible. And Micah and Coppin are cousins. They're just that close on North Avenue. And for the gap to be tremendous, it's almost like a whole world distance between them.
It is.
In terms of resources and access, that stuff like this makes the playing field level. Because now I have something that you're able to get, but I have it in the same way that you have it. So now my resume looks similar. So now the things that would keep me from getting it, like stuff like this on my resume, now allows me to now play on an even playing field in terms of being a professional artist.
Yeah, and I want to touch on something that you asked before about like leveraging funding and things like that. So I'm telling, you know, everyone who applies for this, if you get granted this GRIT fund, this grant, use that as leverage in your other applications, because as I mentioned before,
Couser, GRIT fund recipient.
and you put the money, you know, it's not necessarily about our name, but it's about showing that you have investment from other places, and that happens to be, you know, and this is not something that I agree with within grant making and funding, but that happens to be a
factor,
barrier because if you know, a lot of people don't want to take the first risk to be that first person who invests in something that they're not sure is actually going to happen. You know, we want it to happen, but we're willing to be that first investment so that you can use, you know, your grant applications are great collateral for trying to get other funding and showing other people support this work. Look, they've given me $5,000. I'm applying to you for another $5,000. You know, like that helps strengthen your application, and you can turn that into some leverage for yourself. So don't, you know, whatever grant that you're applying for, don't just let that be it. That application and that process and the work that you put into it, especially if you get that funding, has a longer life. You know, and that's part of sustainability. That's part of thinking about how we push that.
Into your bio of your experience that will qualify you for this.
Yeah, for other things. Exactly. You know, and it's not just about, you know, trying to make sure that you're able to get more funding. It's also about those longer term goals of like, what do you want your practice to look like? And that's why I brought up that Artist U booklet, because they do a really great job of getting you to think in terms of decades, not just next year. Artists are often trying to cover our immediate costs, and we're not thinking, yeah, I wanted to eat yesterday, like, you know, but it's not. Exactly. I'm still behind, you know. I got a full-time job and I'm still struggling. And that's the truth for a lot of people. And for most artists, like, I think there's a myth around like, oh, you should be able to live full-time off of your art.
Yeah, it really
aren't too many people who do that.
It really sucks.
Exactly.
So we make that an art form. So any bigger amount, we automatically jump up to that level versus just easing to that, to the next level.
And figuring out your next steps. That's why I like that workbook a lot, because it's talking about how do we plan for 3, 5, 10 years of our practice. Because the things that you're doing right now set you up to be able to still be, you know, in 10 years. And we don't often think about that because we're not allowed to, because of all of the different pressures, economic, educational, you know, whatever they are. Race boundaries, gender boundaries, class, sexuality, all of those things are boundaries and layers, you know, and I think it's important for us as artists to take control, you know, of our narrative and how people consume our work.
Because we're really the change maker.
Yes.
Of any and everything.
Right.
Culture moves faster than policy and government.
And we make things pretty and expensive and valuable. And I think that is our because But people have shielded us from knowing that that is our power.
Yes. Yes.
Because they hold the purse strings often. We look at that as the power, but they have to spend their money on something.
Yeah.
And we hold the power to the things that are valuable, and we make blighted neighborhoods look expensive and valuable and pretty and accessible for people to move into.
You need us.
And and not just that, but I feel like it's expanding the definition and the idea of what an artist is. Most people who do not work in the arts still have the archaic idea that artists are just painters who live in their studios and don't talk to nobody about nothing.
Right.
That is not the 2019 definition of what artists in Baltimore City that I know are doing. You know, it is so much broader than one discipline, and I think it's also about acknowledging that art is in every part of our lives, whether or not you know it. Design is a part of that. Someone had to design this table and the chairs that we're sitting on. This started as a sketch. You know, like, there's a lot of ways to expand the idea of artists, and I think that's part of how we show up in our power in public, is letting people know, no, actually, I contributed to everything that's around you in some way, and my job is not just to be here to paint a portrait of you. You know, it's much larger than that, and and that's a cultural conversation. That is a national conversation.
This program isn't boring because we had a song.
Yes, right.
Seriously,
right. And we had a poet come up on stage and introduce the energy. Yes, speak on it.
So
they watched those
you
videos.
needed this song to introduce the presence of the Lord and to cast out. Okay, you needed this song. Y'all needed this song, and y'all know that.
It's the truth. Like, music. There's scientific evidence about how music literally
Let's not get into science.
People on the inside. Like, that cannot be denied.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they deny it and make it seem like it's just a resource.
Yeah. It's just an extra. It's an add-on.
You're just rapping. That's just a game. No, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's central.
Turn on microphone.
Sorry, no. Tell me.
I really value and appreciate it because we actually are coming up to the close of this show. So I want to go around one quick time and just get the information for you all. I'm not actually on camera, so I'm gonna let you all take control of this, and then we're gonna end it out. So who are you? Where can we find you?
Again, okay.
What are you selling?
Oh, hello. I do not have any social media because my middle name is Eleanor and I'm an old
somebody
woman.
wants to pay you a check.
Oh, you can reach me at Monique, MONIQUE _ Barnes, like Barnes and Noble, BARNES.
Wow.
7
Wow.
at yahoo.com. I plan to have my own cafe in Barnes and Nobles in the future. Amen. Once again, I'll say that again. Monique, MONIQUE _ Barnes, BARNES 7 at yahoo.com. I do weddings and funerals if you need me. Amen.
And funerals?
Both.
Sing to the dead.
The dead need me.
Sing.
His eye is on the sparrow. I can supply that.
I'm not doing this with you.
Go ahead, Chance.
You guys can find me on Amazon. The first book is on there. It's called My Heart in Paper Form. It's under D. Chauncey Taylor on Facebook. It's under Chauncey Speaks 2 as well as Instagram.
Thank y'all for being here and talking with me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
My name's Khadijah Nia Adel again. If you're interested in contacting me with the Grit Fund, you can find us at Grit Fund. That's GRITFUND.org online. You can also contact me at the Grit Fund at Baltimore Arts Realty, REALTY.com. And connect with us on Instagram. We're also on there at the Grit Fund. You can find us. And then if you're interested in contacting me about art or personal things, I'm also on Instagram at Niaspora. That is KNIASPORA.
Can you give us the due dates for the grant?
Yes, absolutely. So the application is due March 31st, 2019. And as I said at the beginning, we have 2 more info sessions coming up. You can find the information for those and register online. They are free. The next one is March 16th, 2019. This year at Jubilee Arts on Pennsylvania Avenue. And then we also have another session coming up at the Motor House on North Avenue, and that'll be March 26th. Yeah.
Got it.
That's
and we out, y'all.
Oh, he's on the other side.
Show these niggas what to do with one of your beats, man.